Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk Transformation. I'm Susie Lewis, your host, and today's conversation sits right at the edge of two conversations that most organizations are having separately and shouldn't be. One is about AI, what it can do, what we should let it do, what it's going to do with our teams, and the other is about inclusion. Who gets a seat, who gets a voice, and the environment we create. My guest today thinks that these two conversations are the same conversation and should be happening in parallel all the time. I'm delighted to welcome Stephanie Sylvestre, technologist, TEDx speaker, transformation strategist, and the co-founder and chief visionary officer of Avatar Buddy. Stephanie, welcome to Let's Talk Transformation.
Thank you for having me today. I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Me too, especially on these subjects. And we'll come to why in a minute. But Stephanie, you've spent your entire career at this intersection of digital innovation, culture change, and what I'm going to call human systems. And today, Avatar Buddy delivers this cutting edge function specific AI agent, which is powered by SLMs and supported by AI advisors to create responsible AI solutions, but to move the needle on transformation, inclusion, belonging, but also on performance, which is no mean feat. So today we're going to be looking at the power of inclusion in building responsible systems, what digital twins actually are in this context and how they can enable global outreach, and what this means for HR and leadership transformation. So Stephanie, your vision is that AI can finally, and I have a lot of hope in this as well, level the playing field for communities that have been locked out of expertise, mentorship, and opportunities for generations. But that will only happen if leaders choose to build it that way, which means that inclusion is not just a, in inverted commas, value statement anymore. It's a design decision. So can we start there? You grew up in Belize, started out in diplomacy, spent 30 years in corporate IT, and now you run an AI company built for people whose voice is not always heard. And I'm intrigued by that, by how that happened. So when did those threads, Stephanie, stop being separate careers and start being one mission for you?
When I started Avatar Buddy, so I've always been running all three things at the same time. And what I like about being the co-founder of Avatar Buddy is the fact that I don't have to brain switch or context switch. I can just keep going, and everything I do can be impacted by all of these things. So when I was in corporate, I did a lot of philanthropic work. I worked at when I worked at Burger King, I was chair of their BK Cares, which is their community outreach program. I sat on the board of different nonprofits. I took a sabbatical and went to work for a nonprofit for a year. And then I worked at a local government entity that funds nonprofits and other organizations that help improve the lives of children and family in Miami-Dade County. So we've continually, I've continually interwoven these things. But what would happen is you'd work all day in corporate, and then evening and weekends, you would do nonprofit.
Yeah.
And so now I have the opportunity to help amplify nonprofits while doing corporate like work, and it's all together. And what I'm seeing is that by being able to tread all these together, I'm actually more optimized because I'm not having a context switch. I can focus on looking at this across the board. And I'm of the persuasion that nonprofit and for-profit are no different. It's just who gets to keep the money.
Yeah.
That's really, and at the end of the day, your nonprofit needs to be optimized. You can't run a nonprofit for 20 years with a deficit. That is not effectiveness. And I sometimes, and some nonprofit people will push back on this, but I then question, if you cannot get your administration right, are your programming to fidelity, and does it really have the impact that you say it's supposed to have? And, one of the things in nonprofit, it's really supposedly really hard to track outcomes, right? You get a grant, you do yearly outcomes. That doesn't really move the needle. If somebody's completely in distress, you're not going to be able to get them from distress to fully functioning a member of society in a year or even 4. It might be 10 years. And they're like, oh, they moved. We lost track of them. They changed their phone number. They don't respond to their emails. And so we don't really know for sure. Like, I don't know. There was one program that I've met where this guy adopted a second grade class and stayed with that second grade class until they graduated from high school.
Wow.
But during the course of that, some kids dropped out. And so he could say what his impact is, but second grade to 12th grade, that's 10 years. And philanthropy isn't designed for you to do a 10-year funding on the same people. Everybody wants to grow and add more people. And sometimes I think, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Like if one year I served 50 people, then next year I serve 5,000 people, is that good or bad? Is that like a symptom of the society getting worse? Or is that a symptom of you're able to now reach more people? And I'm always kind of like toying with the two things. So from an AI perspective, from my company's perspective, we're approaching AI from the way that AI can amplify, AI can optimize people. And if it deployed properly and it has clean data, and people are like, Stephanie, what is clean data? So let me just stop for a moment.
What is clean data?
So clean data is data that's been normalized. Somebody has reviewed it. We know that it's accurate, right? So I'm on nonprofits distribution list. So I have three different emails, and at any moment in time I got and I interacted with them from one of the 3 emails. So I get 3 of the same email. They're saying I sent out emails to 3 donors. You sent out email to one donor who happens to have 3 email address. That is dirty data.
Okay. Yeah.
Clean data is, you should be like, oh, there's one donor has 3 email addresses. I'll just send it out to whichever one is the primary email address. So because of the way we collect data, it's really hard to keep it clean. And so if you give the AI clean data and then you tell it that you only to use this data set, then one, you get more accurate responses. It's less prone to hallucinate because the data set in which it has to go through is smaller. So it's not going to try to make up stuff, right? The AI is designed like a human brain. I say, look, when we were going to school, a teacher gives you 11 books to read. You're not reading 11 books. You know, a couple of people over the course of the years that I've said this have raised and said, yeah, I read all 11 books. But most people in the audience chuckle and because we all know nobody's reading 11 books. Well, if you give the AI a large data set, that's like 11 books. The AI just is like, good luck with that, and just kind of like deduces. And sometimes it gets it right, and sometimes it gets it wrong. And so that's why it hallucinates. But if you give somebody 3 books to read, there is a possibility they'll read 3 books. And so if you give it a small data set, it will go through the whole data set, and it will bring you back accurate information. But that's just one part of the equation. The other part of the equation is having AI agents that are properly configured. So, people will go to ChatGPT and say, hey, I need to do this, 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 and this. And then ChatGPT gives them something called AI slop, that now it has a name. And people are like, oh, this. And I was like, well, did you configure the agent? Like, what did you do? And so if you configure agents and, when you think about a job, A job has multiple tasks in it to make it a job.
Yes.
And so people will be like, oh, I'll just create one agent for one job. It's not a one-to-one. It's, you need to take those tasks that make up that job. You need to create agents that can do certain tasks, right? And within those tasks, so you might group 2 or 3 tasks together. You can't group more than 5 tasks together because it's not going to do all that you ask it to do. It'll do a subset, and it becomes unreliable because you never know which 3 of the 5 it will do at any moment in time. And so that's why you have to be properly configured. But we have seen when AI uses clean data in a data set that's been validated by humans, and they're given specific directions and training. So I'm not training the way people think about training AI, training the way you would train a human to do a job. You tell the AI, this is how you go about doing this job. When you do that, the AI produces pretty good results.
And again, I'm hearing it's an intentional design decision, to come back to our earlier conversation. And this intention is so important because, from working with organizations on inclusion, the same conversations happening lots and lots, and it doesn't often move to action, sustainable action. So I'm really interested in how you have operationalized both inclusion and AI in the form of the digital twin that is part of your avatar buddy landscape. Can you tell us what a digital twin is and how it fits into this quest for creating a more equitable and accessible environment through AI?
Great. So a digital twin is a digital version of you. So, well, we hired a person that has a PhD in personality questionnaires, and they design a personality questionnaire for us. So this is not something that you can go. I mean, I guess you could call me and say, hey, I want a digital twin. And I give you the link to the personality questionnaire, and then you can take my personality questionnaire and reverse engineer it. Right. But and he gave us the scoring rubric. And so now we can digitize your personality. That takes about, I don't know, 7 minutes, depending on how long it took you to complete the questionnaire. So it takes us about 7 minutes to digitize your personality. Then what we do is we do a series of interviews about your life. And we give that transcript with minimal edits to the AI so that 2 things happen. One, the AI picks up your voice in terms of how you talk and express yourself, what words you use frequently. And so then it will be able to replicate that. And then secondly, the AI having your history brings a humanness to the interaction. And then we have you do a 30-second audio of you speaking about whatever. And then we put that together, and that's your digital twin. And so why does this bring accessibility?
That was my question. And why did you start with a personality test? I'm really interested because we have this big discussion in my job discussion around personality tests. Do they look people in, or are they just giving an idea of preference? And I think that's a super discussion in terms of accessibility.
So, but starting with a personality test, a questionnaire, we are capturing the person's essence. So we wanted to do a real digital twin. I mean, there's digital twin definition has been around for a long time, and it's really the purest definition of digital twin is it's a digital copy of something that's physical.
Yes, I've mainly heard about it in manufacturing and supply chain and things like that.
Yeah. So how can I create a digital twin of you without first capturing your personality? And it to me that just seemed like it seemed like a no-brainer. But as I watch people create digital twins, nobody seems to think about that. And I was like,
Okay.
the,
Inter-
so then what? But it's also why I created a digital twin versus why other people are creating digital twins that are different.
Mm.
And so with that, with that concept in mind, what we're doing is we're saying, if we create a digital twin of you, and now we can give access to 50 million people with no denigration of the quality of the interaction.
Incredible.
You can't talk to 50 million people even if you decided to do that
Mm.
for the rest of your life. You
Mm.
cannot talk to 50 million people one-on-one.
Mm.
And so this is based on the premise that every person can overcome and transcend if they have one loving adult in their life that believes in them more than they believe in themselves.
Mm.
So we have seen lots of broken people and running around because they never had a loving adult believing in them more than they believe in themselves. They had to be the one believing in themselves and carrying that, and that
The
has
entire.
some questionable outcomes depending on how much you believe in yourself. Um,
Yeah.
and so for the people that don't have that loving adult in their life, and it's, people think default that to socioeconomic status, but it's not a socioeconomic status issue. It's a
Mm.
family dynamics.
Of
It's
course.
a cultural dynamic. For those people who don't, then the digital twin is the next best thing.
Yeah.
And so it's configured to encourage you to go talk to other people. So there's the way it's configured, you're not going to get attached to it. We've done 2 research to make sure that it's not addictive.
Well, that's super.
Um, and we've done 2 the part of that research. What we found is that using our AI agents improves knowledge acquisition, knowledge retention, and self-esteem, because it's interacting with you from a position of, and you can do this, not from a position of deficit. It's judgment free.
And I'm also hearing that you feel seen, heard, and valued, which are the human needs for self-esteem.
Exactly. And that's what a loving adult that believes in you more than yourself does. And what it does is it gives voice to people that don't have a voice, right? So our educational system, our society gives preference to people that have command of the written language.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So if you can write really well, even if you don't have a uh, uh, original idea, you will still be a rock star. If you don't write well, but you're uber creative, it's so much more of a struggle.
It's hard. Yeah.
And what I've noticed is the AI gives voice, right? Because you can do stream of consciousness to the AI,
Mhm.
and the AI will come back to you with answers and response in a way that you can then edit and then convey to the rest of the world. And so I've been really frustrated with the nonprofits leaders' lack of desire to even sit long enough to understand how AI, when properly configured,
Mhm.
can actually help their community they're serving, right? And so they have been gatekeepers. And so, like with every other technology that comes along, I am seeing that the community that can benefit the most, the one that actually can use it the best, are again being left behind, and they're
Mhm.
being marginalized to using generic chat GPT or Gemini or X or whatever. I'm sorry, Gork or any,
Yeah.
which those systems by themselves without any configuration doesn't work.
Mm. And where do you think that resilience or resistance is coming from the non-profit? Do you think it's fear? Do you think it's lack of time, lack of budget? What's going on there, Stephanie? Why are they engaging?
I don't know. I don't know the answer. I mean, I could theorize, but then you're probably going to get some hate comments on your on your podcast. So I won't do that. I'll just say I don't know,
Okay.
and
Okay.
leave it at that. I'm sure some people can terrorize and put
Mm.
that in the comments if they so desire.
Yeah. I mean, my question was more about, how therefore can we move the needle? Because I love the idea of the digital twin and the accessibility. And I really like the idea of Mosaic Commons, which is your virtual community for digital twins. Um, and it's a shame that that isn't getting filled up more quickly, or is it? I don't know. I don't know how full it is at the moment, but can you explain the idea a little bit and how you can essentially enable through AI human connection,
Yeah.
uh, make it accessible to everyone?
So in March, and since we've launched, we have sold a digital twin. We launched with we've made 23 digital twins, so it's coming along. I think that this is more of a concept of us having a robust marketing plan and a solution that's really bulletproof.
Hmm.
So, when you first launch version
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
it is version one.
Yeah. That
um,
scary moment.
yeah. So, and we are not dependent on nonprofits to be
Mm.
able to get people access to our solution. So, so what I would say is we want to be able to have a space where Black and brown people can go and see Black and brown people reflected back on them.
Mm.
And my utopian goal is 1 million people, that there's so many people when you go there that you're overwhelmed with who to pick. That
Mm.
in my mind is a good problem to have. Um
Yeah.
and it's about how you see yourself reflecting in others. And so this is something that I had to learn, because
Mm.
I grew up in Belize and everybody that was in power looked like me. So
Mm. Yeah.
like it never dawned on me that I wouldn't be in a position of power and access, because why not? Everybody that looks like me, anybody in power looks like me, right? I moved to the US, and I'm still less so now because I've been here for how long? Since 1989, so almost 40 years. Um but it's always a little like jarring when somebody says it's so good to see you, um and see a Black woman own an AI company, and I don't even rarely do I process it that way.
Yeah.
And so that tells me that there's a need for you to be able to look somewhere and see um people that have your same attributes, physical attributes, mirror back.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so I understand that to an extent. Yeah,
Mm.
I could see that. And so being able to provide um that solution in a way that is accessible. We are going to be charging for you to speak to the twins, unless that person says, I'm going to underwrite the cost of my twin, and then they're available for free, right?
Mm.
um but the idea is, and the reason why we are charging, because part of self-development is accountability and responsibility. And when you give people things for free, you do two things: you devalue what you're given, but
Yeah.
more so, you're inadvertently stripping their dignity, because you're saying to them, you can't you don't have the wherewithal to help yourself, so let me help you. And
Mm.
I am anti any of those kinds of charity and nonprofits. I railed against that for years, and I continue to rail against it. Part of one of the reasons why my favorite charity is Habitat for Humanity, because homeowners have to be on the build site building along with volunteers. And
Yeah.
if you can't be on the build site building along with volunteers, then you have to work in the office, but you have to help.
Yeah.
And it's so this is, and you know, if you look at a Habitat house, like if you go and you visit those Habitat house 10, 15, 20, 30 years later,
Yeah.
over 90% of them are still in pristine condition. Can we say the same for public housing?
No, totally not. No. It's a huge difference, and it's based on accountability and care, of course. Yes.
Exactly. So yeah, that's one of the reasons. If you really believe and you want to advance, I mean, we're going to make it a nominal fee, and um, I'm sure there's going to be some extraneous situation where we might have to waive our fee, but as a part and parcel of the solution is we're putting something in place to help you be the best version of yourself, and in doing that, we are going to make sure that it's a bi-directional accountability. And
Mm.
so if I feel good about myself and I feel confident, what do? I go out and I talk to other people, right? Because your courage vase and your confidence vase has to be filled so high, because you're going to go talk to somebody and they might be rude. And then, if it's low and the energy to shake it off, you're going to run out of confidence. But if it's high, you just shake it off and then you go to the next person and that person like pops it up back here again. And then, and so because of that, you will want to use you will want to go out more frequently. So I'll just tell you my personal experience. I used to use Avatar Buddy all day. And I don't use it all day anymore. But when I use it, it's way more profound, right? Because I've learned how to write better. It taught me how to write better. It's given me confidence in my writing. It's helped me refine my writing style. And so, I can write LinkedIn posts using Avatar Buddy, Social Media Buddy, or I can write LinkedIn posts just by myself. And before, I was not confident in my writing, so I rarely posted anything. Or I would have to write it, then I'd have to send it to 5 people to review, and then they would put their worldview in it and then edit it down. And then it's like, well, this is not quite really what I wanted to say, but okay, whatever.
It sounds better, but it's not mine. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm.
And being able to now have a tool, a solution that will make you feel like, yes, I'm being heard. I mean, because we
Mm.
all just want to be heard. Like, I
Of
don't
course.
always want to be right. Like, sometimes I don't want to be right.
Yeah.
Right. But I want to be heard. I mean,
Yeah.
there are a bunch of worldviews and assessments that I have right now, and I pray every day that I am wrong. I am praying that I'm wrong. I am absolutely praying that I'm wrong.
Mm. And I think, you know, being heard, wanting to be heard and being heard is a basic human need, as is belonging. And, I love the fact that this is actually operationalizing inclusion.
Yeah.
It's making an operational discipline, but you're also building some of the tools that can allow this to be an operational reality. And now I'm super interested, Stephanie, because if I take it back into where you came from, corporate, um, what do you think are the 2 or 3 things that a CEO or an executive committee has to do differently to be able to make that shift? Because, Mosaic Commons idea, could that be used in organizations?
Yeah, absolutely. You create digital twins of your C-level people, and now they become mentors for the rest of the organization. You can talk to the C-level person. I mean, I remember once we were doing a fundraiser at when I worked at Burger King, and um, one of the executives was doing an auction of, he would take you out, like he was like, you and 10 people can go out for for happy hour. So I won it. And what was really cool about like going out to happy hour and talking to him was I learned so much about him. Um, I learned so much about him that I never would have known.
Of course.
And and it gave me insights as to what he really cared about and what he didn't care about. And so then when I would be writing a presentation that he needs to approve some project, I now had that under that insight. Like how was so imagine having a twin that you can go and you can get real human insight about a person, and
Mm.
then um uh doing what do you call it, presenting to those points. It's not to manipulate them, but to interact with them at at a point where they feel good about what they're saying, they're receiving what you're saying, they understand that you understand them. Again, feeling heard, because it's not just the none. I mean, leaders want to be heard and seen too.
Of
uh,
course. And for me, it's also um, tackling one of the hardest things that we need to tackle in organizations, which is the systemic bias, because every organizational system has its power structure and its levels. And for me, if we put Mosaic Commons into an organization, then we're also breaking down some of the myths and also some of the barriers to more junior staff interacting with C-suite people and getting access to information and access to normal conversations with people who otherwise they may never be allowed, in inverted commas, to speak to or to sit next to or to interact with.
it, you're absolutely right. And the second thing is having the people that you're designing the system be part of the conversation. So when we first started, right, we were just like, we just want to get a sale. We just want to get a sale. And then I was like, no, this is not how I want to get a sale. This is not how I want to make my money. So we instituted a 5-step process. And one of this process is an AI opportunity mapping session, non-negotiable. You have to have your team come to that session, or else I just like I'll meet with you and get more information about where's the team, where's the team, where's the team, where's the team, because the team needs to be the one providing the input, because they're the ones that are going to be using the solution, and we
Yeah.
live that. When we first started out in 2021, that's when we got our first prototype.
Okay.
Um, we hired interns, teenagers, because that's all we could afford. And then when we when OpenAI went to market in November 22, we had planned to go to market in January 23.
Okay.
Um, the blowback that they got, some of the blowback that they got, we had already resolved those problems. And then I said, wait, we resolved these problems because we were using teenagers from low
Generation.
resource communities
Mm.
to do insight. They were helping us with writing requirements, user stories.
Mm.
They were helping with testing and giving feedback on the solution. And I was like, hey, this is actually interesting. That And so now that's part of our business model. Every summer we hire um 15 to 20 interns, and they use our solution and they give us feedback. And
Mm.
that is now, I would say, a moat that we have that other people don't have, because they don't think about that.
And
Uh,
well, yeah, the power of diversity, isn't it? It's power of diverse opinions, whether it's generational or socioeconomic or nationalities, anything. It's just completely different ideas in the same space.
yeah, exactly. Like, we have a marketing company out of um South Africa,
Mhm.
and so I came up with this concept, right? Like, what do we do? And we're removing bottlenecks instead of we're eliminating bottlenecks instead of eliminating people. That's what we do. And so I have this whole story around Guillermo. Guillermo is the go-to person in your organization. He knows the whys and the whats, and people keep going to Guillermo, so Guillermo can't get his job done. But because Guillermo is a system of source of truth and information, source of information, when Guillermo gets sick, things come to a halt. When Guillermo goes on vacation, everybody has a Guillermo. You might be the Guillermo. I don't know. So
Yeah, we
I'm
go.
like, and so that resonate. Like I've been testing this for the last 3 weeks. It hits every single point. Even my mom was like, "What does Guillermo do?" He's like, "But like, what does Guillermo do for you?" I'm like, "Well, Guillermo is just like he's a persona. He doesn't really exist." And so I'm excited about Guillermo, right?
Of
And then
course.
the South Africans did not pronounce Guillermo like Guillermo. And
Do
and
they
so
pronounce?
then I was like, oh wait. So I like Guillermo. I've gotten attached to Guillermo. So our solution is Guillermo is William in English. Guillermo is William in Spanish. William is a pretty generic name. I think that name translates into a lot of languages, and for the languages it don't translate into, um, they can either pronounce Guillermo or they can pronounce William. So we're gonna have we're gonna have the website, depending on which country you're pulling from, switch from Guillermo to William.
Yeah. Okay.
But
That's it.
can you imagine us having a whole campaign around Guillermo and nobody can pronounce Guillermo?
But it will spark curiosity.
So just proving the point of the diversity of people, and that's how we have been evolving our organization, our solution. It's working. Um, there are moments, I'll be honest, where I was like, I know in my heart of heart that this is the way to do it. So I have my conviction, but will the world pay for this solution this way? And and it took a minute, um, and I was like, I will not blink. I will not blink. And then I didn't, and then the world is starting to respond, because people are like, this is crazy. Like, we don't want an AI that can take women's clothes off. Like, that's like creepy. Like, why spend resources on that? How about like figuring out the supply chain so that everybody can get food?
or,
It's,
or
or
creating regenerative economic models, helping us think about more circular economy models, anything that is serving society as a whole.
exactly not, or you know, the 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 latest thing that we have is the solution that can find bugs in software. Like, that has gotten my attention like major time. And the reason why is that anybody in the IT space that's worth their salt knows that every single piece of software solution has lots of bugs. And what you do is you design a system, you test it, and you make sure that the bug is there, but the probability that somebody will find it is less than 2%.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
think about all this legacy code that's running our world. I mean,
Yeah.
the financial institutions still use COBOL. Like, people, that's like the dirty secret. The airlines reservation system is still on COBOL. I mean, so now we're going to release this onto the world,
Yeah.
and nefarious actors are now going to know how to hack our system.
Mm. Mm.
How is this okay? How is this okay? And they're like, well, we're sending it out to the vetted companies, and I'm like, You vetted a company. Did you vet all the employees inside of that company? Did you vet the entire IT team?
No, just the top. I would imagine.
And releasing software is like telling a secret. My dad used to say, once more than one person knows about a secret, it's not a secret.
Correct. Even if it's GMO.
Even if it's Guillermo. Yes. I like that. Even if it's Guillermo.
Yeah, brilliant. But I mean, what more seriously, what guardrails, Stephanie, do you think? And this will be one of my last questions because time is running, but I think it's a super important thing that we need to touch on. What guardrails can we put in place? We spoke about accountability. So, when do we delegate a task to AI, and what should never be delegated, and how do we put guardrails around what we're building? Because we can't stop big institutions or big groups of people from doing things like you've just talked about. So what can we do as individuals and communities?
Well, first of all, refuse to install or use products you don't understand. So I'm very afraid that all these people have downloaded Claude Code.
Yes, I was just going to say.
And I was like, I've talked to people. I was like, do you know that it gives root access to your computer? And they were like, what's root access? And I was like, this is why you should not install Claude Code. Because if you don't know what root access is, you should not.
Yeah.
And so it's not about having the latest thing anymore. Like AI is good enough to increase productivity, to help you get your work done, feel good about yourself, and have more time for your friends and family without having all this edge case stuff. So I would say anything released after October of 25, not necessary for the average person. I wouldn't even know if it's really necessary, period. Like we should have held there. I know why we didn't, because we're all about greed and make more money, and you have these crazy valuations, and so somebody wants their money back. Um, so responsible should not be trying to use AI that's going to automate stuff, right? You need to look at your business process, and the most tedious and energy sucking part of it, that's what you give the AI, not the entire business process. And maybe you might have AI in 2 or 3 parts of your business process, but in between the AI, there's a human. It's not handing from one AI to another AI to another. It's AI, check, hand off to AI, check, hand off to AI. And people are like, oh, like we can't automate that. I was like, but you don't need to automate that. Like that still saves you tons of time and energy. Like I used to not be able to apply for grants, and now I can apply for grants because the AI, I can apply for a grant in 4 hours. I can sit down and me and the AI and the grant jam because the AI knows about my company. I give the AI the grant, I give it the rubric, and we can jam 4 hours. Before, writing grants were like 2-3 week thing. One, because you have to sit there, you have to pull data from all different places, you have to cut and paste. And 2, the emotional taxation of having to do that causes you to procrastinate and have emotional churn. You don't have to have that anymore. And I think that still improves the quality of life. It still brings more accessibility. And I wrote a LinkedIn post on the 16th of April, and I said, I've been watching this for 10 years, and I'm not a big Google person. I have some complaints about Google, but Google has quietly released AI solutions that are practical, make sense. They're safe, simple, and fast. And they have deployed it in a way that that's how we've built our AI solution, which is you have a data vault, your Google Drive, or you could give it a few documents. You could tell it which one of those documents it should use. So you have control over the data. It comes with some canned AI agents. Are they the best? No, but they're pretty good. And so you could just tell it in simple language what it is that you want, and you get a pretty decent output. They watermark their stuff. It's annoying, but whatever. Okay, fine. You watermarked it. It's not a big deal. Um,
Mm.
and so Notebook LM and Google Enterprise is a responsible way to deploy and use AI. So now, if you can't or don't want to use a company like Avatar Buddy, you have a real valid alternative that doesn't expose you to a lot of risks, doesn't give you a lot of AI slop.
Mm.
But the other
Mm.
people are racing to how do we create things that, like, I'm so glad that they paused that porn thing, because that was another thing. Like, really,
Yeah.
you don't have enough on the internet. We want to make more, or we want to make it at a faster rate. I mean, come on, man. Like,
And
again,
more accessible. That's also very dangerous.
yeah. So it's, yeah. So I feel like Google has quietly won the AI race. That's in my mind. I called it that Google won. People are like, well, I don't know if it's yet. I think it's as a from the position of improving civil society, Google has won. I
Mm.
don't see how OpenAI and Anthropic and Meta and Work and XAI course correct to the point where their solutions now come back and help civil society in a way that's helping civil society. Because there's sometimes we help in one place, and then when you turn
Yeah.
around, you're like, oh, unintended consequences. Oh, we didn't
Yeah.
think about that
Yeah.
because we didn't
Yeah.
include civil society.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And what would you say to leaders who are listening right now, thinking, one, I need to be more intentional, and two, I need to really think about what I can use and give as guardrails to my team on the subject of working with AI agents?
Uh, AI, don't use it just because everybody else is using it. Like, have clarity on what problem you're trying to solve.
Mm.
How many Guillermos are you trying to make their life better?
Mm.
Where's Guillermo being a bottleneck in your company? Have clarity on that, and then based on that, you determine what you want automated and what isn't automated. You know more than anybody else, more than anybody that's going to come to you, what will is mission critical, key, high stakes in your organization. Don't give that to the AI to do. That's give the human that to do, and give the AI the work that human was supposed to do that. The tedious thing that distracts them from doing the high stakes, high value. And then make sure that you have all the appropriate voices in the in the room. And I will say, not the person that's the loudest.
Yes.
Go find the person that's quietly working. And in corporate America, if you're loud and you're boisterous and you're in front of in people's faces, you get noticed.
Mm.
Um, one of the things that I'll leave you one thing
Mm.
is attached to that is the way I make friends is when I go to an event, I scan the room for the people that look like they're uncomfortable and don't want to be there. And I
Yeah.
walk over there and I go and I talk to them. And usually I have some of the best conversations, and they sometimes turn into my friends.
Mm.
They're appreciative that I've saved them from a terrible social interaction. And I get access to a depth of knowledge that everybody else has glossed over.
Yeah.
Those are the people you want in your AI conversations.
Absolutely. And I'm going to leave our listeners with that thought, because it's so important, not just what you build, but how you build it. And what I take from this, Stephanie, is it's a choice, and it's not a technology choice. It's a leadership and a personal choice about whether you widen the gap or whether you try and augment and leverage things to close them. So thank you very much for coming and sharing all about Avatar Buddy, the digital twin, the Mosaic commons that I love. and your vision for AI in the future in terms of enabling accessibility and inclusion. Where can people find out more about you, Avatar Buddy, and what you do, Stephanie?
Thank you for having me. LinkedIn, Avatar Buddy, Stephanie Sylvestre, TRE. And you can also go to our website, avatarbuddy.ai.
Okay, super. I will put all those links in the show notes so that they can find you easily. Thank you for a great conversation.
Thank you. Bye.
So what Stephanie laid out today is a choice. And it's not a technology choice, it's a leadership one. AI will either widen the gaps we already have or close them. It will either replace humans or free us up to do the work that actually needs humans and that we need to do. Those aren't decisions technology makes, they're decisions we make in the meetings we hold this week, next week, and the week after. This idea of seeing yourself in positions of power and access is such a powerful motivator for intentionally building inclusion. And it reminds me of how key representation is, even in the digital realm. I truly believe that the future of AI hinges on intentional design and ethical considerations. If you're a leader, I urge you to think about this. Don't use AI just because everyone else is. Don't use AI just because you think you should. Instead, have clarity on the problem problems you're trying to solve. Ask the right questions and include diverse voices in the design process. If you want to talk more about how to do this as a leader and how to integrate this into your team for better performance, contact me directly. My link is in the show notes. And in the show notes, you will also find the link to Avatar Buddy and to Stephanie's TED Talk on AI and marginalized communities. Well worth a listen.